I had a couple of questions for you. If you don't mind. I had a couple of questions for you. If I can ask these things, you kind of touched on them in your testimony, but I want you to kind of elaborate a little bit on it. The first thing I want to ask you about is you made a comment about in your home. You said you didn't feel that your family was in the home, that you thought your family was outside. I work with a lot of kids and a lot of families as a therapist, and I want to know, what did you miss at home? What can I tell these parents they need to give their kids so they won't go outside the home and look for something out there? What were you missing, and what needs to be in the home for
that acceptance, to be accepted as equal, In other words, treat them as equal. But they're sure they're your kids, but you treat them like kids? Loved ones, treat them like loved ones. Because they're going to find that love somewhere else. And it will be in the streets, and they'll end up drugs, because they're going to try drugs if they're out there in the streets with their peers. And the thing is to show them that you love them. And not tell them like they used to tell me, little boys should be seen and not heard, instead of talking to them. And that's what got me, looking for somebody to be heard, for me to tell something to somebody.
Yeah, because no matter how old you are, you have something to say, and you need to be heard,
right.
And you need to be guided. You're definitely right about that. Another thing that you mentioned, I think, is so important. You talked about crying, and I find that that's one thing that young men particularly don't want to do, because tears for them are a sign of weakness.
Right.
And so they want to stay away from that. And you talked about that's not the case. Tears are, you're supposed to cry. God wouldn't have given us tears if we weren't supposed to use them. Can you really talk to the young folks and tell them some more about what tears, why God gave us tears? Why is it important to express ourselves in that way?
Okay. It boils down to, when we're infants, don't you cry when you're hungry or when you want to get change? You cry. The only difference is age, and through the ages, through the years, you hear that men don't cry, which is a lie from the pit of hell. That like God didn't want us to cry, He would never put tears in our eyes. And, the emotions, you got to let it out, but we hold it in. We play that part, like I said, and hold our emotions in. Before you know it, you end up with a callous heart. And like I said, I didn't cry for 40 years. Now it seems every time I step behind the podium, I shed a tear. But that's like a cleansing. God gave us to shed tears like a cleansing. You feel better after you cry. And that's, like I said, who says macho, be macho? Our peers, our fathers, our uncles. Who sings Macho Man? The village people. And what are they?
Sure.
And they're singing Macho Man, and we got to pray for them too. They're not macho, and yet they sing Macho Man.
And that is right where I was going to go in the third part, because you said something I thought really needs to be understood. We talk about many people, many Christian folks talk about, unfortunately, they talk about how they hate gay people, they hate homosexuals. And you made a statement, God does not hate homosexuals, He hates behavior, He hates sin, but He doesn't hate the sinner. And I think it's important that people hear that, because I think people want to just say, oh, I hate homosexuals, I don't want to have anything to do with homosexuals. But what you said is God doesn't hate the people, He hates the behavior, He hates the sin.
The sin.
But he loves the sinner, but he hates the sin. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I think that's so important for everybody, kids and adults, for everyone to hear.
See, when I got out of prison, I had that prison mentality still. And, what I disliked, I hated. But when I became a Christian, my wife had a lot to do with it. She said, don't hate that person, hate the sin and love the sinner. God doesn't hate the sinner, he loves the sinner, he hates the sin. So I went through that, and my wife was there to guide me, and she said, hate the sin, not the sinner, love the sinner. And before you know it, you won't be sinning no more. So with that prison mentality that I had, I didn't like certain people, informers, and, homosexuals, and I didn't like them because you play that part, you become that part you hate, and I didn't have feelings for 40 years, like I said, but once I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ in my life, it was just change.